The glittering mansion stood tall at the edge of the city, a palace of marble and glass. Its golden light shone like fire against the dark evening sky from far away. It looked like a castle from a dream, glowing in the silence of night. Inside, the air was full of music, laughter, and the smell of expensive food. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, throwing light across the long dining hall. Tables were covered with silver trays of fruits, cakes, and dishes only the rich could afford. Golden cutlery glistened under the light, and crystal glasses of juice stood waiting for hands to lift them. Every corner of the hall whispered of wealth. Even the carpets under the guests' feet were soft and woven with patterns from faraway lands. The millionaire, Mr. Harrington, had thrown a grand party to celebrate his growing empire. Politicians, businessmen, and socialites filled the room with chatter. Their laughter was loud, but their eyes were sharper than knives. Always measuring, always calculating. They weren't here for friendship, they were here for power. In the center of the hall stood Isabella Harrington, the millionaire's only daughter. She was dressed in a white gown that shimmered like moonlight. Pearls rested in her long brown hair, and a soft necklace of diamonds glowed at her neck. People turned their heads when she walked by, admiring her beauty and grace. But her smile was small, almost fragile, as though her heart was far away. She moved carefully, greeting guests with gentle nods. Her father watched her with pride, though his pride carried more weight of wealth than love for him. Isabella was the shiny jewel of the Harrington name, a symbol of his success. But for Isabella, the mansion often felt like a cage. She lived surrounded by servants, expensive walls, and endless rules. Yet she longed for something simple: love, freedom, kindness without condition. Near the corner of the room, half hidden in the glow of the chandeliers, stood Nanny Grace. She was not dressed in silk or jewels, but in a plain gray dress with a white apron. Her hair was silver, tied neatly at the back, and her face carried wrinkles that spoke of both struggle and tenderness. For Isabella, she was more than a servant. She was the motherly figure who had held her as a baby, told her bedtime stories, and wiped away her tears when no one else cared. As Isabella smiled at strangers, her eyes sometimes drifted to Grace, and in that single look was comfort. Grace, with her warm eyes, was the only one in the room who saw Isabella not as a millionaire's daughter, but simply as a young girl with a heart. The music grew louder, violins filling the air like a river of sound. Waiters moved through the hall carrying trays. On one of the trays, sparkling under the lights, were crystal glasses filled with orange juice. The juice looked sweet, golden, and fresh, with droplets of water on the glass that made it look even more tempting. Isabella, tired after so many greetings, felt her throat dry. She reached out gracefully and took one of the glasses. For a moment, she admired how the golden liquid caught the light, glowing like liquid sunshine. She smiled faintly, lifting it toward her lips. From the far side of the room, Grace's heart grew uneasy. Something about the juice didn't feel right. Perhaps it was the way the waiter's eyes shifted quickly, or the faint, strange smell she caught when the tray passed her. Her hands trembled, but she stayed silent, not wanting to cause alarm in front of so many guests. Isabella lifted the glass higher, her lips almost touching the rim. The chatter around her grew louder, and her father laughed with an important guest. Not noticing his daughter, Grace's chest tightened. She wanted to call out, to stop Isabella, but her voice froze in her throat. Then, as Isabella finally sipped, the glass touched her lips. The taste was sweet, honey-like, almost as sweet. She swallowed slowly, unaware that danger was already sliding into her body. The glass sparkled under the chandelier light, but beneath its beauty, a dark secret waited to reveal itself. The glittering mansion, with all its wealth and shiny beauty, was about to witness something that no gold, no diamonds, and no power could stop. And in that single, quiet moment, as Isabella lowered the glass and smiled faintly at her guests, the air in the room seemed to grow heavier, like the calm before a storm. The collapse of glass slipped from Isabella's hand. It hit the polished marble floor with a sharp crash, scattering crystal shards like tiny stars across the ground. The golden juice spilled in every direction, a shining stain spreading across the perfect white surface. For a second, the room froze. The music stopped mid-note, the laughter silenced. Every head turned, eyes wide, as the millionaire's daughter swayed on her feet, her pale hands clutched at the air, trying to hold on to something. Her eyes, usually bright and calm, grew heavy. A soft sound escaped her lips, half gasp, half whisper. Then, slowly, like a flower falling under its own weight. Isabella collapsed. Her pearl hairpin slipped loose, clattering across the floor. Her white gown, once glowing like moonlight, now lay crumpled against the hard marble. The guests gasped, voices rising in shock. Some covered their mouths, others stepped back quickly, afraid to be near her. The glittering hall that had been full of pride and wealth only moments ago was now filled with fear. And then came the voice. The juice is poison. It was Nanny Grace. Her cry cut through the chaos like lightning splitting the sky. Her old, trembling voice shook with terror, yet it was stronger than all the whispers in the room. She rushed forward, pushing past silk gowns and polished shoes, and dropped to her knees beside Isabella. Tears blurred her vision as she lifted the girl's head gently into her lap. "My child, my sweet girl," Grace whispered, brushing strands of hair from Isabella's damp forehead. "Stay with me, please. Don't close your eyes." The room burst into chaos. Servants ran in every direction. Guards slammed the tall doors shut with a heavy thud, locking everyone inside. Guests shouted over each other, demanding answers, their fear growing like wildfire. At the center of it all, Mr. Harrington appeared, his face drained of color. He pushed through the crowd, his expensive suit wrinkled, his powerful presence broken by panic. "Isabella," he cried, falling beside her. His hand shook as he touched her arm, desperate to feel life still inside her. He turned to the servants, his voice breaking. "Get the doctor, now." Isabella's lips moved faintly. Her eyes fluttered, half open, half lost in a haze. She wanted to speak, to tell her father she was still there, but no sound came. Grace held her tighter. "Don't leave me, darling. You are stronger than this. Hold on. Just breathe." Her own heart raced. Fear clawing at her chest, but she refused to let Isabella see it. Grace's love gave her courage even when her hands trembled. On the marble floor, the spilled juice glistened. Its sweet smell now felt sickening, heavy with hidden danger. Guests stepped away from the golden liquid, their eyes wide with dread. "Poisoned?" Someone whispered. "Who would dare? Was it meant for her?" Another muttered. Suspicion thickened their voice. Eyes darted around the room, searching for someone to blame. The glittering mansion, once a place of pride, was now filled with shadows of doubt and fear. Dahmer. Harrington looked at his daughter, his powerful empire meaningless before the sight of her weak, trembling body. He turned to Grace, his voice cracking. "Save her. Do something, please." Grace's eyes met his. For the first time, he saw her not as a servant, but as the woman who loved his daughter more than anyone else in the world. "I will not let her go," Grace whispered fiercely. She pressed her ear to Isabella's chest, listening for her heartbeat. It was faint, but still there, like a small bird fighting against the storm. Relief touched Grace's face, but fear remained heavy in her heart. Around them, whispers grew louder. Some guests accused the staff, others suggested rivals who wanted to hurt the millionaire by harming his daughter. A few even looked toward Mr. Harrington himself, wondering if enemies from his business empire had finally struck back. But Grace pushed all the noise away. For her, only Isabella mattered. The girl's soft breath, the pale rise and fall of her chest, that was her world. "Stay with me, my angel," Grace murmured again, rocking slightly as if Isabella were still the baby she once cradled. "You are not alone. I am here." The doors burst open. A doctor rushed in with his bag, his coat flapping as he ran. The crowd parted for him, their whispers silenced. He knelt beside Grace, quickly checking Isabella's pulse, her eyes, her breathing. His face tightened. "It is true. Poison," he said grimly. "We must act quickly, or she will slip away." The words hit the room like thunder. Gasps echoed, and silence followed. Heavy as stone. Dahmer. Harrington's knees buckled. His empire, his wealth, his power, none of it could shield his daughter from the cruel hand of fate. And in the corner of the hall, the glass shards still sparkled under the chandelier, silent witnesses to the tragedy that had begun. The glittering mansion had become a prison of fear, and Isabella, the jewel of it all, now lay between life and death, her fate hanging by a single thread. The father's desperation. Great hall of the mansion no longer sparkled. The chandeliers still glowed above, but their light felt cold, almost cruel. The music had stopped, the laughter gone. All that remained was fear, the kind that seeps into every corner and grips every heart. On the floor, Isabella lay pale and fragile. Her chest rose and fell weakly, each breath a battle. Nanny Grace clung to her hand, whispering prayers with trembling lips. The doctor worked quickly beside them, opening bottles from his black bag, his brow covered with sweat. And then there was Mr. Harrington, the father, a man once known for his strength, his voice, and his power over cities and business empires. Now stood helpless, his hands shook, his eyes, usually sharp and proud, were wide with panic. The mighty millionaire had faced rivals, storms, and failures, but nothing had ever broken him like the sight of his daughter lying poisoned before him. Save her, he cried, his voice echoing against the tall walls. Do whatever it takes. Spare no cost, just save my little girl. He turned wildly to his guests. Does anyone know what to do? Is there anyone who can help her? But the crowd only shifted uneasily. Men in polished suits avoided his eyes. Women in glittering gowns whispered behind their hands. These were people who once bowed to his wealth, but now, faced with death, they stood useless, like statues made. A fear-dark Grace looked up at him, her wrinkled face wet with tears. She is fighting, sir. Her heart is strong, but the poison is stronger. We must keep her awake. We must not let her slip away. The doctor pressed a cloth to Isabella's lips, trying to force a bitter liquid down her throat. She coughed weakly, her lashes fluttering like broken wings. Her hand tightened for a moment around Grace's fingers. Then went limp again. No, Harrington roared, his voice breaking. He fell to his knees beside his daughter, clutching her other hand. His expensive cufflinks scraped against the marble, but he did not care. My child, my Isabella, he whispered, his forehead pressed to her arm. For the first time in his life, the powerful man's voice was soft, pleading, almost broken. Like a child's, stay with me, please. What is all this wealth worth if I lose you? You are my heart, my only joy. Tears streamed down his face, tears no one had ever seen him shed. To the world, he had always been a stone unshakable, proud, but here, with Isabella slipping away, the stone cracked, showing a father's heart, raw and desperate. Grace's voice was firm, though her hand shook. Do not let go of her hand, sir. She must feel your love. That will give her strength. He nodded quickly, gripping Isabella's hand tighter. Yes, yes, I will never let go. His words trembled. Can you hear me, my angel? It's your father. Stay awake, just for me. Fight, Isabella. Round them, whispers spread through the crowd like a poison of their own. Who could have poisoned her? Was it one of us, or a rival of Harrington's? Maybe it was meant for him. Suspicion clouded the room. Eyes darted from servant to guest, from guest to servant. The glittering mansion was turning into a nest of fear and doubt. But Mr. Harrington heard none of it. His whole world had shrunk to the pale figure in his arms. He thought of all the times he had been too busy for her, too proud to show her his softer heart. He thought of the way she had smiled politely at his business partners, even when she was tired, because he had asked her to. And now, as her weak breath brushed against his fingers, he realized the truth. Money could build walls, buy jewels, and command men, but it could not stop death from knocking on his door. The doctor looked up, his face grim. The poison is deep. She needs more than what I can give here. She must be taken to the hospital at once, but every second counts. Then take her. Harrington shouted, his voice cracked like thunder. Take my cars, take my men, do whatever it takes, but move now. Servants rushed to prepare, but the guards stopped them. Sir, one guard said nervously, we cannot open the doors. If we do, the poisoner may escape. We must know who did this before anyone leaves. Harrington's rage exploded. He grabbed the guard by his collar, his voice a roar. My daughters, life is worth more than all of you. Open those doors, or I will tear them down myself. The guard trembled, then stepped back, bowing. The order was given, and the heavy golden doors creaked open. Outside, black cars waited under the night sky, their engines ready. Grace lifted Isabella carefully, wrapping her in her arms as though she were still the baby she had once rocked to sleep. Harrington walked beside her, one hand never leaving, his daughters, the other wiping tears from his cheeks. The guests followed at a distance, their jeweled eyes watching, whispering. Some pitied him, others were already calculating what this tragedy might mean for his empire. But for Harrington, there was no empire anymore, only the fragile heartbeat of his daughter. As they carried Isabella toward the waiting car, the mansion behind them stood silent, its glitter and gold now meaningless. For the first time in his life, the millionaire was not thinking of power, deals, or riches. He was thinking only of a simple prayer. Let her live. Please, God, let her live. The race against time night air outside the mansion was cool, but it carried no peace. The tall gates creaked open, and the black limousine waited with its engine humming like a restless beast. Guards stood tense, holding lanterns that threw long shadows on the driveway. The stars above sparkled faintly, watching silently as the millionaire's world unraveled. Grace held Isabella in her arms, as carefully as if she were glass. The girl's body was light, her breath shallow against Grace's chest. Isabella's white gown trailed on the gravel, already stained from the spilled juice and her fall. Her hairpins had fallen away, leaving her hair loose and messy, a sharp contrast to the perfection she usually wore. Dahmer Harrington walked beside them, his strong figure bent with desperation. His hand never left Isabella's, gripping it as though the warmth of his palm could anchor her to life. His polished shoes struck the stones harshly, but his heart beat even louder in his chest. The driver opened the car door, bowing low. "Sir, we are ready. Go, now," Harrington barked. His voice cracked with fear, not authority. Grace climbed it with Isabella, laying her gently across the leather seats. Harrington followed, clutching his daughter's hand. The doctor squeezed in beside them, already preparing his equipment. His face set in deep concentration. The car lurched forward, speeding through the iron gates. The mansion grew smaller behind them, its golden lights now a cruel reminder of how quickly beauty could turn into tragedy. Inside the car, the silence was broken only by the rattling of bottles from the doctor's bag and Isabella's faint, uneven breaths. "Her pulse is fading," the doctor muttered, holding her wrist. He injected a small dose of medicine into her arm. "This will slow the poison, but it is not enough. We must reach the hospital quickly." Grace stroked Isabella's hair, whispering softly, "Stay with us, darling. You're not alone. You hear me? You're not alone." Mr. Harrington stared at his daughter's face, pale as moonlight, her lips almost blue. He pressed his forehead to her hand. "I would give up everything," he whispered, voice shaking. "Every deal, every coin, every house. Just open your eyes, Isabella, please." For the first time, he realized how little the world of money meant compared to the fragile heartbeat of one girl. The city lights blurred outside the windows as the car raced through empty streets. The driver pressed hard on the accelerator, horns blaring as they rushed past slower vehicles. Time seemed both to fast and to slow. Every second was precious, yet every second felt endless. Inside, Isabella stirred faintly, her eyelids fluttered. And for a moment, she opened her eyes. Her gaze, though hazy, found Grace first. Her lips parted, and a weak sound escaped. "Ma," she whispered. Tears filled Grace's eyes. She bent close, her hand caressing Isabella's cheek. "Yes, my love, I'm here. I will never leave you." Harrington froze. That single word cut through him like a blade. His daughter had called for Grace, not him. For years, he had been proud to give Isabella wealth, jewels, and fine clothes. Yet in her moment of weakness, she reached not for her father, but for the nanny who had given her real love. His chest tightened with guilt. He had thought riches could replace affection, but he was wrong, and now he feared it was too late to change. The doctor leaned forward. "Keep her awake. Talk to her. She must not drift into sleep." Grace held Isabella's face gently. "Stay with us, my darling. Think of the roses in the garden. Remember how you loved them. Think of the sun on your face, the way you laughed when the wind lifted your hair. Stay here with us. Do not close your eyes." Harrington forced his voice steady. "Isabella, it's your father. Can you hear me? We are going to the hospital. You will be safe soon. Just hold on, my angel. Hold on." The girl's lips curved faintly, almost a smile, but her eyes closed again, her breathing shallow. "Her pulse is weak," the doctor warned. "Faster, driver, faster." The car swerved through the streets, the city rushing past in streaks of light. Every corner felt like a battlefield, every second a fight against death itself. Harrington clutched his daughter tighter, whispering prayers he had never spoken before. Finally, in the distance, glowing red letters appeared. St. Mary's Hospital. Its tall white building rose like a beacon in the night. "Thank God," Grace whispered, holding Isabella tighter. The car screeched to a stop at the hospital doors. Nurses rushed out with a stretcher, their white uniforms flashing under the lamps. Grace and Harrington helped lift Isabella onto it, their hands reluctant to let go. As the nurses wheeled her inside, Harrington followed quickly, his footsteps echoing across the cold hospital floor. His empire, his wealth, his power, all of it felt meaningless now. Only one thing mattered, the beating of his daughter's fragile heart. And though they had reached the hospital, the fight was far from over. The real race against time had just begun. The silent hospital was quiet, yet its silence was heavy. It was not the calm silence of peace, but the tense silence of fear. Bright white lights glowed above, casting long shadows across the clean tiled floors. Nurses walked quickly, their shoes clicking softly, their faces serious. Machines beeped faintly in the distance, each sound carrying the weight of life and death. Through the wide double doors, Isabella was rushed inside on a stretcher. Doctors surrounded her, their white coats fluttering as they moved with speed and precision. Grace walked beside her until a nurse raised a hand. "Please, madam," the nurse said gently. "You must wait outside." Grace froze, her hands reaching out for Isabella, but she knew she could not enter. With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "Stay strong, my child. I'm right here. I will not leave." Mr. Harrington stepped forward. "I'm her father. I must go in." But the doctor's firm voice stopped him. "Sir, we need space. Trust us. We will do all we can. Please wait." The heavy doors swung shut, leaving Harrington and Grace in the cold hallway. The sudden quietness pressed against them, like walls closing in. For the first time, the millionaire had nothing to command. No amount of money could open those doors. No empire could change the fact that his daughter's life rested in the hands of strangers. He sank into one of the hard wooden benches, burying his face in his trembling hands. The proud man who once stood tall before the world now looked broken, small, and frightened. Grace sat beside him, her wrinkled hands folded tightly together as if in prayer. She glanced at him, her eyes full of both pain and truth. "You see now, sir," she said softly. "Gold and jewels cannot protect her. Only love can." Her words struck him deeply. He raised his face, his eyes red. "I know," he whispered, his voice rough. "I see it now. All these years, I gave her riches, thinking it was enough. But tonight, she did not call for me. She called for you." Grace's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded gently. "Because I was always near when she needed comfort. You were there, but from far away. She loves you, sir, more than you know. But love cannot be locked in safes or bought in shops. It must be given freely." Harrington pressed his fists against his knees. His chest burned with guilt. How many times had he missed her laughter because he was at a meeting? How many times had he dismissed her quiet sadness because he thought success was more important? Now, as she fought for life, he realized the true cost of his pride. "I would trade every coin I own," he said hoarsely, "every building, every car, just to see her smile again." Grace laid a hand on his arm. Her touch was gentle, yet steady. "Then let that be your promise, sir. If she survives this night, love her the way she has always longed for. Let that be her treasure." The words hung in the air, soft yet powerful. Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hall. A police officer entered, his cap under his arm. His sharp eyes scanned the room, then settled on Harrington. "Mr. Harrington," he said firmly, "we must ask questions. Poisoning is no accident. Someone wanted your daughter harmed. Do you have enemies?" The millionaire's face darkened. Enemies? He had many, in business, in politics, even in his own social circle. Rivals who hated his success. But the idea that someone would dare to target Isabella shook him to his core. Grace's heart raced. She remembered the uneasy look on the waiter who carried the juice tray. She opened her mouth to speak, but Harrington raised his hand. "Not now," he snapped, his voice trembling with both anger and fear. "Not while my daughter lies between life and death." The officer gave a small nod. "We will investigate, sir. No one leaves this hospital until we know the truth." The words added another weight to Harrington's shoulders. The glittering mansion had been full of whispers, and now the hospital carried them too. Suspicion lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. Grace leaned back against the wall, closing her eyes. She prayed silently, her lips moving without sound. For years, she had prayed for Isabella's happiness. Tonight, she prayed only for her life. Hours passed slowly, each minute stretching like an eternity. The ticking clock on the wall grew louder, counting every heartbeat Isabella might lose. Finally, the heavy doors opened. A doctor stepped out, his face grave. Harrington shot to his feet. "How is she? Tell me." The doctor sighed. She is stable for now. We have slowed the poison, but she is very weak. The next few hours will decide her fate. Grace clasped her hands, whispering, "Thank the Lord." But Harrington's heart pounded harder. Stable for now. That meant the fight was not over. It meant she was still on the edge, still fragile as a candle flame in the wind. He looked through the small window on the door. Inside, Isabella lay motionless on the bed, tubes and wires surrounding her. Her skin was pale, her chest rising faintly. She looked like a fragile doll, too delicate for the world. Tears blurred Harrington's vision. He pressed his hand against the glass, whispering so only he could hear, "My angel, I was blind. I will change. If you come back to me, I will never let you feel alone again." Beside him, Grace nodded softly, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Hold on, child. The dawn is near. Do not let the night take you." And so, in the silent hospital halls, the millionaire and the nanny waited together, their hearts beating with the same prayer, "Let her live." The dawn of truth's long night dragged on, heavy with fear. In the hospital halls, time seemed to move slowly, each tick of the clock echoing like thunder in the silence. Grace sat with her hands folded, whispering prayers under her breath. Mr. Harrington paced the corridor, his once proud steps now restless and uneven. His sharp eyes were dull, his expensive suit rumpled, but none of that mattered. All that mattered lay behind the white doors of the room his daughter, Isabella. The first hint of dawn touched the sky outside the tall windows. A pale light crept into the hospital, chasing away the shadows of night. With it came a fragile hope, soft yet steady. At last, the doors opened. The doctor stepped out, his face tired but softer than before. Both Harrington and Grace rushed to him, their voices trembling. "Tell me," Harrington begged. "How is she? Is she alive?" The doctor gave a small nod. "She is alive. The worst has passed. She will recover, though she will need rest and care. The poison nearly claimed her, but her will to live was strong." Grace pressed her hands to her chest, tears of relief spilling down her wrinkled cheeks. "Thank the heavens," she whispered. Harrington staggered back, his knees weak. For the first time in hours, he let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Tears rolled down his face openly, without shame. "My Isabella," he murmured, his voice breaking. "She is safe." They were allowed inside. Isabella lay on the bed, her skin still pale, but her breathing stronger. Tubes and wires surrounded her, yet she looked peaceful, almost like she was simply sleeping. Grace walked to her side first, gently taking her hand. "My sweet girl, you are safe. You fought so bravely." Isabella's eyes fluttered open slowly. Her gaze was weak, but full of recognition. When she saw Grace, a faint smile touched her lips. "Ma," she whispered again. Grace bent close, kissing her forehead gently. "Yes, my darling, I'm here. I'll never leave you." Then Isabella's eyes shifted. They found her father, who stood frozen at the foot of the bed. His chest rose and fell as if each breath was too heavy. He took a step forward, then another, until he was beside her. "My angel," Harrington said softly, his voice trembling like a boy's. "You scared me more than anything in this world. I thought I had lost you." Isabella's lips moved, weak but clear. "Papa." That single word pierced his heart. He reached for her hand, holding it with both of his. "I have been blind, my child. All my life, I gave you gold, jewels, and parties. But I see now they were nothing. You needed my love, and I was too proud, too busy, too foolish to give it. Forgive me, Isabella. From this day, I swear, I will be a father in truth, not just in name." Tears slipped down Isabella's cheeks, her hand tightening weakly in his. "I just wanted you." Grace watched silently, her heart swelling with both sorrow and relief. At last, the wall between father and daughter was breaking. But peace did not last long. A firm voice came from the doorway. The police officer had returned, his face stern. "Mr. Harrington," he said, "we have found the source of the poison. It was placed in only one glass, the glass your daughter drank from. The waiter who carried the tray is missing. He fled the mansion before the doors were locked. We believe he was paid to target her." The room grew heavy again. Grace gasped, and Harrington's jaw tightened with fury. "Who would dare target my daughter?" he growled. The officer nodded grimly. "We are investigating. But one thing is clear. This was no accident. Someone wanted your family destroyed." Harrington's fist clenched. For years, he had fought rivals in business. He had enemies who envied his empire, who despised his power, but never had anyone struck so low as to target Isabella. The thought burned his heart with rage. Grace, however, placed a hand gently on his arm. Revenge will not heal her, sir, right now. She needs love, not anger. Let the law find the guilty. You must stay here and give her what she has always needed. Her words softened him. Slowly, his hands loosened and his gaze turned back to Isabella. She was watching him, her weak eyes filled with trust. He sat beside her, brushing her hair gently from her face. No matter who tries to harm us, they will not break us, he said softly. From this day, you are my world, Isabella, and I will never let anything take you from me again. The morning sun rose higher, its golden light spilling into the hospital room. It touched Isabella's face, making her pale skin glow softly. It warmed Grace's tired features and lit Harrington's tear-streaked cheeks. For the first time in years, the Harrington family was bound not by wealth, not by pride, but by love. Outside, the city stirred awake, unaware of the battle fought in the night. The mansion still stood tall, glittering in the sunlight, but inside its walls, something had changed forever, because in that hospital room, amid the smell of medicine and the sound of steady heartbeats, a father had found his heart again. A daughter had found her father's love, and a nanny's devotion had become the bridge that saved them both. The poison had nearly stolen everything, but dawn had brought truth and with it, a second chance.